Imagine waking up tomorrow in a world where everything feels just a little different. Your reflection in the mirror carries more confidence. Your reality aligns more closely with the version of your life you've always dreamed of. And opportunities seem to find their way to you as if by design. This isn't just wishful thinking. This is what people around the world describe when they talk about quantum jumping. And no, this isn't a scene ripped from a sci-fi movie or some mystical fantasy. It's a real psychological and energetic phenomenon that has been quietly transforming lives, often without people even realizing what's happening. But once you understand how it works, shifting timelines can become a conscious act, an intentional leap into the version of reality where you thrive. To understand quantum jumping, you first have to let go of the old, linear way of seeing reality. Most of us are taught to believe that time flows like a river from past to future, fixed and unchangeable. But quantum jumping invites us to see reality as something entirely different. Instead of a single river, imagine an ocean of infinite waves, each wave representing a different timeline, a different version of you, a different set of possibilities that already exist. You are not trapped in one fixed timeline. You're simply tuned into one frequency. And just like a radio dial, you can shift to another frequency where a different reality is already playing out. At first, this idea can feel abstract, but think of all the times your life has changed drastically because of one decision, one coincidence, or one unexpected encounter. That moment when you said yes to something small, but it changed the entire trajectory of your life. That's a kind of unconscious quantum jump. What makes this concept so powerful is that you don't have to wait for coincidence or fate. You can learn to direct the jump yourself. And when you do, the reality you step into can look and feel astonishingly different. Here's where the science meets the mystery. In the realm of quantum superposition, particles can exist in multiple states at once until observed. It's not just that reality is uncertain, it's that reality is a field of infinite potential. The moment of observation collapses those potentials into a single experienced reality. Now extend that concept beyond particles to your life. You too exist as infinite possibilities. There's a version of you who has already achieved what you desire, who's living the life that right now seems out of reach. Quantum jumping is the process of aligning your consciousness with that version of yourself and stepping into that timeline deliberately. But this isn't about physically vanishing from one timeline and appearing in another like a character in a science fiction show. It's about shifting your state of being so profoundly that the reality around you responds. People, circumstances, and opportunities begin to reorganize themselves as if by some invisible hand, reflecting the new frequency you're holding. In short, when you change, your world changes. Many people misunderstand this process, thinking it requires intense meditation, supernatural powers, or years of spiritual training. But the truth is, quantum jumping is something anyone can access. It starts with a subtle internal shift, a change in how you see yourself. Imagine reality as a mirror. If you stand before a mirror frowning, the reflection frowns back. But the moment you smile, the reflection smiles too. Quantum jumping operates on this same principle. By embodying the version of yourself that already lives on that desired timeline, reality reflects it back. This is where the power of identity comes in. Most people live trapped in the story of who they think they are. I'm not successful. I'm not lucky. This is just how my life is. But identity isn't fixed. It's a frequency, and like any frequency, it can be tuned. The moment you begin to embody the energy of the version of you who already has what you want, you begin to collapse reality into alignment with that frequency. You stop chasing the future, and the future begins to move toward you. Take a simple example. Imagine a person who has always struggled financially. Their story is rooted in scarcity. Their choices reflect that scarcity. Their energy radiates lack. They live in the timeline where money is always just out of reach. But when they begin to embody the version of themselves who is abundant, not hoping but being, that shift creates a new frequency. And slowly, sometimes surprisingly quickly, opportunities, ideas, and encounters that match that new identity start showing up. They didn't win the lottery. They shifted timelines. The first step in quantum jumping is awareness. You must become conscious of the timeline you're currently tuned into. Most people operate on autopilot, reacting to life instead of intentionally directing it. But once you pause and observe, really observe, the story you're living, you begin to see how much of it is shaped by your beliefs, your emotions, and your expectations. If you expect things to stay the same, they will. If you expect change, you open the door to a different wave of possibility. The second step is embodiment. This is where most people get stuck. They think about what they want, they visualize it, but they never truly embody it. Embodiment means feeling it as real now, not someday. It's walking like that future version of you, talking like them, breathing like them, thinking like them. It's merging with that identity so completely that the old timeline begins to lose its grip on you. And because reality mirrors your inner state, the world begins to rearrange itself in response. The third step is detachment. Quantum jumping isn't about forcing reality. It's about aligning with it and allowing it to unfold. When you cling to the idea of needing something to happen, you signal to reality that you don't have it. That's the frequency of lack. But when you let go, when you trust that the shift has already happened, you allow the new timeline to solidify around you. This is why so many people experience sudden synchronicities and miracles after they stop trying to control everything. Think about the times in your life when something finally worked out the moment you stopped obsessing over it. That wasn't a coincidence. That was a frequency shift. Detachment is not giving up. It's stepping fully into the identity that knows it already has what it desires. It's a quiet confidence that bends reality. And here's where it gets even more fascinating. Quantum jumping doesn't just change your external circumstances. It changes the way you perceive reality itself. The things that once felt impossible begin to feel natural. The opportunities you once couldn't see are suddenly right in front of you. The people who resonate with your new frequency show up effortlessly. It's like tuning from a static, filled radio station to one with crystal clear sound. The station was always there. You just had to tune in. This is why some people seem to live lives filled with incredible luck and serendipity. It's not that they're more blessed. It's that they're tuned into a timeline where things work out for them, and you can do the same. But to make the leap consciously, you must step beyond mere wishing and step into being. Quantum jumping is about embodying your future self so fully that reality has no choice but to match. By the end of this journey, you'll understand not just the what and why of quantum jumping, but the how. You'll learn how to identify the timeline you want, align with it, and step into it without resistance. And the most beautiful part, you'll realize you were never trapped in just one reality. You've always had the power to shift. You just needed to remember how. Here's the part most people miss. Quantum jumping isn't something external that happens to you. It's something you do internally first. The external world is simply the echo. When people hear the term timeline shift, they imagine portals opening or entire realities warping before their eyes, like stepping into another dimension in an instant. But the true magic is quieter, subtler, and far more powerful. It begins in the invisible space between your thoughts, your emotions, and your sense of self. That is where the real jump takes place. Think of your consciousness as a projector. Whatever film you load into that projector becomes the movie playing on the screen of your life. If the reel is filled with fear, lack, and limitation, the world reflects that back in endless loops. But the moment you change the reel, when you start projecting possibility, abundance, and confidence, the scenery around you shifts, not because the world forced itself to change, but because you tuned into a new timeline where those possibilities were already waiting for you. This isn't just poetic language. Even in the world of physics, particularly in the study of quantum decoherence, we understand that reality exists in a field of overlapping probabilities. What determines which probability becomes your lived experience isn't chance alone. It's observation, intention, and resonance. When your energy resonates with a specific possibility, that possibility collapses into your experience timeline, and that's where personal power comes in. You're not a passive observer. You're the one holding the projector. But let's ground this idea in something real. Imagine a woman named Leela. For years, she lived in a loop of mediocrity, a job that drained her, a relationship that felt stagnant, and a life that moved like a tired clock. She dreamed of a different timeline where she felt alive, inspired, and free. One day, instead of trying to change everything around her, she decided to change within. She began to wake up as if she was already living that new life. She changed how she spoke, how she moved, how she saw herself. She didn't fake it, she embodied it. At first, nothing external changed. But within weeks, new people entered her life. Unexpected opportunities emerged. And within months, she was living in the reality she once thought was a distant dream. What changed? She jumped timelines. This same story plays out in thousands of different ways, sometimes quietly, sometimes dramatically. A man decides he's done identifying as someone who always fails. He steps into the energy of someone who wins. Not pretends, embodies, and life reorganizes itself. A young woman stops chasing validation and begins to live as someone who already knows her worth. Suddenly, doors that were once closed seem to open. These aren't coincidences. These are timeline shifts in action. The real trick isn't wishing for the jump, it's becoming the person who already made the jump. Most people make the mistake of waiting for external proof before they believe. But quantum jumping flips that script. You believe first, you embody first, and reality, like a mirror, reflects it after. It may sound backward, but this is exactly how the mechanism works. Think about it when you smile at the mirror. You don't wait for the reflection to smile first. You lead, it follows. To do this deliberately, you need clarity. Clarity acts like a GPS for your consciousness. Without a clear destination, your mind wanders aimlessly, and vague intentions lead to vague realities. So ask yourself, what timeline do you actually want to shift into? Not just better life, but something specific. How does it feel to be that version of you? How do you walk, talk, breathe, and respond to life from that space? This isn't daydreaming. This is coding the coordinates for your jump. Once that clarity locks in, the next step is resonance. Your emotions are your tuning fork. Every emotion carries a frequency. Fear and doubt keep you stuck in old timelines. Confidence, joy, gratitude, and certainty pull you toward new ones. That's why some people try all the techniques, but still feel stuck. Because deep down, they're still vibrating at the frequency of the old timeline. You can't jump from scarcity while feeling scarcity. You have to embody abundance first. This is where techniques like breathwork, visualization, and stillness become powerful tools. They're not magic spells, they're alignment tools. When used correctly, they shift your inner state so dramatically that the jump happens naturally. Take visualization. When done superficially, it's just daydreaming. But when done with full sensory immersion, feeling the textures, hearing the sounds, smelling the air of that future timeline, your nervous system begins to believe it's real. And once your inner world accepts it as real, the external world starts to catch up. But here's the catch. You can't cling to the jump. If you keep looking over your shoulder asking, is it happening yet? You pull yourself back into the old timeline. Think of a diver leaping off a cliff into the water below. Once you jump, you commit to the fall. There's no halfway. Detachment isn't about not caring. It's about trusting the process so fully that the old reality loses its power to pull you back. Some people experience sudden, almost surreal shifts. Others feel it gradually, like the slow turning of a tide. Both are valid. A shift in timelines isn't always dramatic. Sometimes it's quiet, the way a door closes softly and another opens without fanfare. The key is to keep embodying the new frequency even when external proof hasn't fully arrived yet. That's how timelines stabilize. To make this real for you, let's walk through a simple exercise. Close your eyes and imagine the version of yourself living in the timeline you desire. See them standing before you. Same face, same body, but their energy is different. Stronger, freer, calmer. Maybe their shoulders are squared a little higher, their breath deeper, their eyes clearer. Now step forward and merge with them. Feel what they feel. Think what they think. For a moment, let that version of you take the lead. This is the seed of the jump. When you open your eyes, you'll still be in the same room, but something will have shifted. Subtly, yes, but that's how all big shifts begin, with a subtle, almost invisible decision to stop being the old you and step fully into the new. Every time you return to this state, you strengthen the signal. You anchor yourself deeper into the new timeline. And as the signal strengthens, the world begins to respond. What happens next often feels like magic. People call it coincidence. But it's not. It's coherence. Synchronicities begin to multiply. You think of something, and the opportunity appears. You feel a pull to go somewhere random, and there you meet the person who changes everything. You open your email to find the offer you've been waiting for. These are not random events. These are signposts that your frequency is aligning with the timeline you've chosen. But here's something important: when you jump timelines, some parts of your old reality may start to fall away. Old relationships may dissolve, habits may feel uncomfortable, and situations that once felt familiar might begin to clash with the new frequency you're holding. This is normal. In fact, it's proof that the shift is happening. Don't cling to what no longer fits. Let it go. Every jump requires releasing the weight of the old world. Think of it like stepping off a moving train. If you keep holding onto the railing, you'll get dragged along. But when you let go, your feet find solid ground in the new place. Quantum jumping isn't just about moving toward what you want. It's about fully leaving behind what no longer serves you. That's where courage comes in. The jump requires trust. And trust is the bridge between where you are and where you're going. The moment you fully commit to a new timeline, the universe responds. not in some mystical, far-off way, but through subtle shifts, aligned opportunities, and moments that feel as if the world is rearranging itself to meet you halfway. But here's the truth most people never talk about. The real power of quantum jumping isn't just in the jump itself. It's in staying there. Anyone can have a breakthrough moment, a flash of insight, a rush of possibility. But anchoring into that new reality requires consistency, trust, and a willingness to shed what doesn't belong to your new frequency. Imagine your timeline as a radio station again. You can tune into a new station, but if you keep flicking the dial back and forth between frequencies, the sound gets static-filled. The same happens with reality. If one day you embody your highest self and the next you fall into doubt, fear, and the old identity, the jump becomes shaky. The key is to stabilize your new frequency long enough for it to become your dominant reality. And this is where daily embodiment practices become essential. You don't need rituals that take hours. The most powerful shifts often come from the smallest, most deliberate actions. It could be waking up and immediately aligning your posture, breath, and inner dialogue with the version of you who already lives in that new timeline. It could be pausing during the day to ask, what would the version of me in that reality do right now? Every time you choose from that state, you reinforce the timeline. Every choice is a vote for the reality you're stepping into. And here's the beautiful paradox: when you hold the new frequency consistently, it starts to feel less like a fantasy and more like the only reality that makes sense. What once felt forced becomes natural. What once required effort becomes automatic. At this point, your subconscious mind has accepted the new identity as real. And when the subconscious accepts something, it manifests without resistance. That's why people who've made profound shifts often say, I don't even remember how hard it used to be. It just feels like this has always been my life. Let's return to the earlier analogy of Leela, the woman who shifted from a stagnant life to a vibrant one. In the beginning, the jump required conscious effort, aligning her mindset, changing her routines, letting go of old attachments. But after a while, her new identity took over. She didn't have to remind herself to act like the empowered version of her. She simply was her. And that's the moment when the timeline fully locks in. Because it's no longer about pretending, it's about being. But what happens when doubt creeps in? When you wake up one day and everything feels off? This is where most people revert to their old timeline. But this is also where the biggest transformation happens if you choose to stay aligned. Doubt isn't a sign you've failed, it's a test. A threshold moment asking whether you truly trust the timeline you've chosen. If you allow doubt to pull you back, the old frequency reasserts itself. But if you breathe through it, anchor in, and remind yourself who you've become, the new reality strengthens. It helps to understand this through the lens of quantum coherence. When you stabilize a frequency long enough, it becomes coherent, meaning the energy aligns and amplifies itself. Think of a choir singing out of tune versus in perfect harmony. One creates noise, the other creates resonance that can move hearts. Your frequency works the same way. The more coherent it becomes, the more effortlessly it pulls matching experiences into your life. And here's another layer most people overlook. The timeline you shift into doesn't just change your circumstances. It changes who you are capable of being. It unlocks behaviors, talents, and ways of perceiving reality that may have been dormant. Because in the quantum field, all versions of you already exist. By aligning with a specific version, you access their emotional patterns, confidence, creativity, and resilience. You're not creating something out of thin air. You're remembering a version of yourself that already existed in the field of infinite possibilities. This is why quantum jumping can feel like becoming someone new. But in truth, it's about becoming more you than ever before. The version of you living in the higher timeline isn't some stranger. It's a more aligned, more expanded version of the self that's always been waiting beneath the layers of fear, conditioning, and doubt. Think of it like stepping into a room that's always been next door. You didn't build the room from scratch, you just finally walked through the door. And once you're inside, you wonder why you ever stayed out in the hallway for so long. To make your timeline shift unshakable, you need anchors. Anchors are daily practices, reminders, and habits that keep you aligned no matter what the outside world does. They can be as simple as a grounding breath in the morning, a powerful affirmation that resonates deeply with your new identity, or a small ritual that reminds your subconscious, this is who I am now. These anchors act like gravity in the new timeline. They keep you from drifting back to the old one. Equally important is understanding that not everyone in your life will follow you into your new timeline. Some relationships, jobs, habits, and environments are tied to the old frequency. As you shift, those connections may loosen or break entirely. This can feel painful at first, but it's a natural part of the jump. You can't carry everything with you. The person you're becoming requires space to breathe. And sometimes, that means letting go of what once felt familiar but no longer fits. You may also notice resistance from the external world. Not because the jump isn't real, but because reality takes time to reconfigure around your new frequency. Like a ship changing direction, there's momentum to overcome. This is why patience is crucial. Just because the old reality echoes a little longer doesn't mean the new timeline isn't taking form. Stay the course. Keep embodying. Let the world catch up. One of the clearest signs that your timeline has stabilized is the disappearance of the need to control. When you're truly anchored, you stop grasping, forcing, or begging reality to shift. You live as if it already has, because it has. Your nervous system, your energy, and your perception are aligned. That's when opportunities appear almost casually, as if they were meant to be there all along. Because they were. Think of an archer drawing a bow. At first, there's tension, the build-up of energy, the aiming, the focus. But once the arrow is released, it travels on its path without needing to be pushed. That's what anchoring feels like. The energy is set in motion. All you have to do is keep walking as the version of yourself who's already there. And here's the ultimate truth about quantum jumping: there's no finish line. Once you master one jump, you realize there are infinite timelines waiting. Each new version of you carries even greater possibilities. It's not about striving endlessly, but about expanding into the infinite nature of your own consciousness. You are the traveler, and reality is your map. You decide where to land. This is why some people seem to live lives that defy logic. They've learned to navigate timelines like rivers, stepping from one to another with ease. They don't get stuck asking, how? They step into being. The how reveals itself in perfect timing. And you can do the same. Right now, as you hear these words, infinite versions of you exist. The one who stayed the same. The one who gave up. The one who soared higher than you've ever imagined. The timeline you experience next depends on the version you choose to be in this moment. The jump isn't in the future. It happens the instant you decide and align. This is your doorway. No flashing lights. No science fiction portals. Just you, your energy, your choice. Step forward. Become the version of yourself who already lives the life you desire. The moment you do, the universe won't resist. It will rearrange itself to meet you.